Hey guys, today in class we did a deep dive and a case study around Jamestown. We're going to look at Indigenous perspectives as well as European perspectives about what happened at colonial Jamestown. So we started with a Nearpod activity. If you were in live class today, you will have already done this and this video will be a review. If you were not in live class today, you'll see an assignment appear on your Google Classroom that's asking you to complete this Nearpod activity. I'm going to walk you through it together in this video right now, but then I want you to go through and make sure you're answering all the questions and putting your answers on the Collaborate boards. We started with a photograph of this woman. It's a portrait, a painting, that was done in 1616. And we spent a little time guessing and trying to figure out who we think she is. So if you want to pause for a second, now would be a good time to think about who this woman could possibly be. Most of our classmates were surprised to learn that this woman is Pocahontas. She's not painted to look like a native woman. She's not painted to look indigenous. She's painted to look European. She's very white, has light brown hair, and is dressed in European clothes. So why do you think the author or the artist of this painting might have chosen to paint her this way in 1616? On the Collaborate board for class, leave your comments. Think about your reaction. What questions does this raise? And what do you think about these paintings of Pocahontas? Were they what you expected of her, or did you expect to see something different? Then we dove into our deep case study of Jamestown. I want you to take a minute, look at the following chart of data, and think about what you can learn from life at Jamestown. I would like you to pause right now and take a look at this. Some questions to think about are, what happened to the population numbers? How did they rise and fall? Do you think that life at Jamestown would have been good or bad? Was it easy or difficult? You see a lot of people arriving from England and then periods of disease where the population is falling, then more new arrivals, then more disease, then conflict with the indigenous people whose land the colonizers were trying to occupy. So what do you think life at Jamestown might have been like based on this chart? Now we're going to read short sections of the text about the goals and hardships of Jamestown. I'm going to read these aloud to you. Establishing Jamestown. As over 130 men and boys departed England on the 3 Virginia Company-funded ships, the Godspeed, the Discovery, and Susan Constant, they dreamed of the riches they may find. The entrepreneurs, or businessmen, anticipated gold, iron ore, timber, and silver. They were instead delivered hunger, disease, drought, and death. The 6,000-mile journey took over 4.5 months and saw its first few dozen deaths. Upon arrival in May 13th of 1607, the colonists were immediately besieged by attacks from indigenous people defending themselves and the land. The Englishmen had chosen to settle among the 32 tribes, an estimated 14,000 members of the Algonquin Nation. The Powhatans lived where the colonists built their first triangle-shaped wooden fort. By summer 1609, most of the initial settlers had died from malaria or dysentery. Over the next 5 years, the population went up and down like a yo-yo, as new arrivals were met not only with vitamin deficiency diseases like scurvy and pellagra, but possibly even the plague. Historians have found remains of black rats, the same rats that carried the plague in Europe, that may have arrived with food supplies. Common symptoms included bubbling skin, vomiting, blood, and rapid death, seemingly overnight. Bodies were disposed of hastily in mass graves. By 1620, disease coupled with the worst drought in 800 years completely devastated the population. Often referred to as the starving time, the population had dwindled to a mere 60. In fact, on June 7, 1610, the survivors initiated their journey back to England. They were met with a convoy of new arrivals from the Virginia Company that forced them to turn back. Not only was the population decreasing, but England relied on their colonies' economic exploits in order to keep supporting colonization. However, economically speaking, Jamestown was doomed for failure. The land was swampy and the water was brackish along the James River at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. They had tried silk making, glass making, lumber farming, sassafras, pitch and tar, and soap ashes, but were unable to find any success. Furthermore, the types of men that made the initial journeys were English gentlemen of privilege, which meant that the colony had very few skilled laborers. Even the first women to arrive in October 1608 were Mistress Forrest and her maid Anne Burris. Jamestown was almost sure to fail as an English colony if it had not been for the tobacco farming. Tobacco was native to North America and the West Indies, and up to that point, the Spanish had control of tobacco farming and the tobacco market. John Rolfe, who was married to Pocahontas, learned from her how to dry and cure the tobacco leaf so that it smoked pleasant, sweet, and strong. In 1612, he planted tobacco the way he learned from Pocahontas. By 1614, 3 barrels of tobacco were exported to England from Jamestown, making it Virginia's new export cash crop. This in turn made Jamestown an important colony for the economy of England and its ability to compete with Spain. As a sign of success, in 1619, the House of Burgesses met, establishing the first elected representative lawmaking assembly in the English colonies. Later that same year, the first 20 enslaved Africans were brought to the colonies. By 1644, the population would grow to over 8,000, and Jamestown would serve as the first capital of Virginia. Now that you've done this reading along with me, in your Nearpod, you'll be able to play a trivia game. So you compete against your classmates to race a mountain to see who wins. So do the time to climb quiz. It'll be fun. You can pick an avatar and use that character to move you up the mountain. Finally, for Wednesday, we're going to challenge what we know or think we know about Pocahontas and her story. These slides are in your Nearpod assignment, but we didn't get to cover them in class today, so we'll start here on Wednesday. Which means you do not need to do the exit ticket for today. We'll do that on Wednesday as well. If you have questions, you can come to my office hours tomorrow and I'll help you through. Also, try to come to our live classes. Instead of just reading through the text like we did today, in our live classes we stop and talk and have discussion along the way, so it's a lot more interesting. All right, thanks guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye!